Did you hear about the horrifying story of an alligator attack at Taylor Lake, Florida? In this true story, we'll uncover the gruesome fate of a man who ventured too far, only to be brutally eaten alive by an alligator. Welcome to Amazing Animal Stories. This is the harrowing story of Sean McGinnis, a 47-year-old homeless man who lost his life while searching for Frisbees to sell in Taylor Lake, Florida. Sean had been living in a friend's basement for the past 8 years, but had to leave due to conflicts with his roommate's family. The pressure to find a new home and livelihood pushed him to take risk and venture deeper into the lake. He managed to retrieve up to 30 Frisbees in one night, which he resold for a few dollars each, helping him to make ends meet for a little longer. He was also dealing with a growing sickness, as he had been diagnosed with a deadly tumor that he knew would eventually cut his life short. On May 31st, 2022, around 4 a.m., Sean cautiously stepped into the chilly water, gradually moving further in. Surrounded by darkness and silence, he waved his hands underwater, hoping to find a disc. He had done this multiple times before, but being alone in the vast, deep water at midnight still sent chills down his spine. When he discovered his first disc, Sean was only a few feet into the water. He tossed it onto the shore and resumed his search. It didn't take long for him to realize that he had picked over the shallow waters and needed to venture further into the lake. Within minutes, he found himself chest deep in the water, scouring for more lost Frisbees. Driven by desperation and the need to finish before daylight, Sean went deeper into the lake than he ever had before. Around 4:30 a.m., in the dark and silent night, he heard a faint splash in the distance. The unexpected sound startled him, as he was the only one there. He scanned the area and spotted a pair of glowing eyes emerging from the water, staring directly at him. Trapped in the middle of the lake, vulnerable and isolated, Sean cried out for help. The creature swam in front of Sean, stopping him in his tracks. Glancing back, he noticed another pair of eyes amidst the lake's dark backdrop. Suddenly, a massive snout broke the surface behind him and clamped down on his thigh with tremendous force. Sean screamed in pain as the alligator's teeth crushed his bones and tore through his flesh. With his leg still firmly in its jaws, the alligator began to spin in the water and ultimately tore off Sean's right leg. Sean let out an agonizing set of screams as he mustered all his strength to move towards the shore, hindered by the weight of the water pushing against him. Bleeding and unable to walk, his fate seemed inevitable. The second alligator emerged in front of him, clamping down on his right arm and tearing it off just as brutally. Having lost 2 limbs, Sean remained conscious. The disturbance drew more alligators to the scene, and the assault escalated into a vicious feeding frenzy. The reptiles took turns biting into Sean's body and remaining limbs. He was brutally dismembered, losing 3 limbs before ultimately succumbing to his horrific injuries and dying. The alligators feasted on the remains for a while, and Sean's mutilated body, with only 1 leg still attached, floated on the lake, staining the water a ghastly red. 4 hours later, a man walking his dog near the park discovered the gruesome sight. Sean's face was so severely mauled that it was challenging to identify him. When no one claimed his body for several hours following the incident, his identity was finally confirmed using dental records, and his roommate was informed of the tragic loss. Police found that Sean had been explicitly warned against entering the lake after security had caught him a few months earlier. Sadly, he ignored the warnings and went in at night when the park was closed. The following night, authorities and trappers were sent to the area to find the alligators responsible for Sean McGinnis' death. 2 alligators, measuring over 10 feet, were euthanized after being found near where his body had been recovered. They were taken to a nearby sanctuary and dissected in hopes of recovering Sean's arms and legs for burial. Unfortunately, only a few fragments of bone and cloth could be retrieved from the reptiles' stomachs. Sean's roommate felt profound regret and guilt for asking him to leave, blaming himself for the tragic chain of events that led to Sean's horrific death. The Largo Police Department closed the park for several days. Sean had no family in Florida and had been out of touch with distant relatives for over 8 years. His death was a stark reminder of the dangers of getting too close to such deadly predators and shocked park visitors into adhering to the rules and regulations surrounding the lake, fearing a similar tragic fate.